Hi, my name is Justin Mirigliani. For those who don't know me, most of you who are watching this video already do know me. So, um, when I was growing up, one of the things that, not my parents, but I would say my extended family would say is, don't tell anybody your business. You know, keep private things private. And I think that has led to a lot of people not knowing what goes on in other people's lives. And I've shared a ton with you about what it was like to have ulcerative colitis and what it was like to find out that ulcerative colitis was leading to cancer and then having the ileostomy and all that stuff. And I would say for the most part, it hasn't been hard for me to share that with you. Some things are embarrassing, but at the same time, I think that we all have embarrassing things, and it's important to show vulnerability and show where things are, where people suffer, and find out how you can help other people who might be suffering. So this one's harder. I want to talk to you about mental illness, and it's not easy for me to say this on camera, but I am mentally ill. I suffer from a few things. I have depression, anxiety, and OCD. And over the years, there's ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're doing really well and it's not a problem at all. And then other times you are not doing as well and you're struggling. And recently I've been doing pretty well. I haven't had a whole lot of problems, but I take a lot of medications. I take Seroquel, I take Klonopin, I take Ritalin, trying to think if there's anything. Yeah, Buspar and 2 different Wellbutrins. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And I do go to psychotherapy as much as I can. It's harder now that I have a family and different things for work and other ventures. So it makes it difficult, but I try to get there as much as I can. And so what I want to do is take it into what it looks like and what it feels like to have drug withdrawal. I and my doctor have both decided that the Luvox, we should try to get off of it. I've been on it for 2 years, and she's not sure how much it's really helping. So she said, why don't we just try to wean off? So I started, I don't know the mgs, but I was taking 3 of them a day. We cut it back to 2, then down to 1, and then we took it away. And I was feeling okay when we took away the last one. For the first 2 or 3 days, I thought, wow, I'm going to get away with not having any withdrawal. I've had horrific withdrawal from other medications to the point where I was just out of it. I mean, it was terrible. But in the last 3 days, unfortunately, I'm not going to bypass the withdrawal. And I just want you to understand what it is. I think most people don't. A few things. First of all, the anxiety that I'm feeling right now is off the charts. I have a horrible feeling of, I don't want to say terror, but certainly fear. And half the time I can't even pinpoint what the fear is about. Most of the time it's about health. I've had enough health issues to be concerned about other health issues. So that's one of them, and it's constantly on my mind right now. I can't stop the anxiety. And like I said, even when I can't pinpoint what it is, I still feel the anxiety. And it's a burning feeling. It's amazing. It starts out sometimes in your legs and travels right up through your whole body. A burning from the inside out. Sadly, I've experienced that back. I can remember one of the first ones when I was 6 or 7 years old. I mean, I hate to think of that for a kid, but it is what it is. I was just born that way. A couple other things. There's a feeling of an out-of-body experience that I can't process what's going on around me. It feels like you're losing your mind, even though you're not. You know, I'm still able to understand things, but for instance, if my kids or my wife comes up to me and they start talking to me, I might not even know. I might not even be aware because I'm so lost in my fog. If I'm today, I tried to do some work from home, and I just couldn't get it done. I could not concentrate. I couldn't think. My mind was going 1,000 miles an hour. It just wasn't going to happen. So my concentration is way off. I feel like I'm here, but I'm not here. I feel like there's an out-of-body experience. I'm having night terrors. So these aren't just bad dreams. They're horrific dreams and I won't go into detail, but they are tremendously unsettling. And I wake up out of breath. I'm having the inability to get to sleep very easily. It's taking me 2 hours to fall asleep, and when I fall asleep, I wake up, I would say twice an hour. It just is. It's incredible how often I'm getting up right now. I'm looking at the clock, but I can't get any comfort at all in sleeping. It's just it feels like I'm in another world, and of course that's not fun. And then I have, because you get the anxiety attacks, you start to get short of breath, and then there's the fear of my having a heart attack, and those types of things. And I have to remind myself, and luckily my mom reminded me just a few minutes ago. She said, you're in the gym constantly. If you had a bad heart, you'd know. You lift a ton of weights and you run and you do all kinds of things. And, you don't think rationally when you're having drug withdrawal. It just doesn't happen. And I'm not right now. And I know that. So these are things that people with mental illness deal with. And the reason why this video is a little bit more difficult than others is because I have no idea how people are going to react. I don't know if they're going to say, hey, great that you did that. I'm really proud of you for coming forward with that. Or if they're going to say, this guy's nuts. There's something wrong with him. He's, it's like a leper. You want to stay away from him because he's crazy. Mental illness is what it is. It's an illness, right? It's not a choice. I've had people come to me, I can't tell you how many times, and they'll say, well, if you're depressed, just become a positive person. Now, in 43 years, don't you think I would have decided to be a positive person if that were just the fix for it? Right? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Or don't be afraid. Don't have anxiety. Well, how do you do that? If I learned how to do that, I wouldn't be feeling that anxiety as I do, right? Don't be obsessive compulsive. Don't let obsessive thoughts cloud your mind. Well, how do you do that if you're obsessive compulsive, if you have the disorder? So, a lot of people look at others with mental illness and they think they're crazy or they're dangerous. Yeah, some people are. There's no doubt about it. There are some people who are mentally ill and they shoot up Vegas, or they shoot up a nightclub, or they shoot up a school. But that's a small part, a small segment of those who suffer from mental illness. It's not the norm. So I think we have to get rid of the stigma and stop saying, people with mental illness are weak or they're crazy. It's not that at all. And the other thing I wanted to do is talk to you about drug withdrawal. I wanted you to see what it looks like, because it's not a decision that you say, I want to get rid of this drug, and you just wipe your hands and walk away. It doesn't work that way. There's a price to pay. I have no idea what it's like to use cocaine or heroin or any other illegal drug. I haven't used a single illegal drug in my life. I haven't even smoked pot once. Never. I've been at parties where pot was smoked and probably got a contact high, but that's about it. So I think we have to be a little bit more compassionate with people who are struggling with those problems, because if this is this bad for me trying to get off of Luvox, could you imagine how difficult it is for somebody to try to get off of cocaine or try to get off of heroin? It's got to be brutal. And it's not, as I said before, it's not just a mental thing. There's physical pain. The brain zaps, where you can't focus. Your eyes get out of focus because there's an electrical impulse in your brain. That happens to me a lot right now. It's going to go away. I've had it before with other drugs. But, there's physical pain that comes with this. And it's not just a decision. The other thing I wanted to say, too, is that these drugs get a bad rap. A lot of people say, well, we got to look into the drugs, the Zolofts, the Luvoxes, the Wellbutrins, Lexapro, all those different drugs. I'm so tired of hearing people like Tom Cruise, who no matter how much he tells you that he knows about mental illness, he's full of crap. He doesn't know anything about mental illness. He reads what he wants to read as long as it agrees with his view. The drugs work. I know that. I've been on them. I'm not going to say that I could not beat mental illness without the drugs, but I can tell you it would be a whole lot harder and it would take a whole lot longer. And I don't want to lose 5 or 6 years of my life to depression when I could take some pills and not have the depression and save myself the 5 years. Why would anybody want to suffer longer if there's a way not to? These drugs are not bad drugs. The disease is a bad disease. And all of them, depression, anxiety, OCD, ADHD, you name it. It's not the drug's fault. It's the disease is the problem. So this idea that anybody who takes antidepressants or anybody who takes drugs for mental illness, they're crazy or they could go off at any minute. That's not true. That's not true at all. And I think we have to look at that. I think we have to, we talk about these school shootings all the time, and there is a component of mental illness in that. There's no doubt about it. But I think one of the things we have to do is stop the stigma. We have to stop looking at people who are mentally ill as, quote, crazy. That doesn't mean you're crazy. That means you have an illness. And if we're more compassionate about that, maybe we could find a way to help the people who do have a tendency to do things that are violent or dangerous. And one other thing that I think about, right now I can honestly say I'm in no position that I would even consider taking my own life. I'm not suicidal. When people talk about suicide and they say, well, that's the easy way out, or somebody's a coward and that they made that decision. In my mind, if you can get to the point where you could override the will to live. Think about it. If somebody held your head underwater, you would fight like crazy to get up. Your will, and it wouldn't even be a conscious thought. You just do it. That's your will to live. Your will to live is what gets you out of a burning building. Okay. And that's so strong, it's innate. It's not something you have to think about. No one taught you that. A baby, when you put them in a pool, they roll around on their back. That's the will to live. It's survival. Your body's made that way. So if you can be ill enough to get to the point where you can override the will to live and actually take your own life, that means you were very sick, right? Just like if you got cancer. I mean, you might get cancer and be able to get chemo or have an operation or whatever and be cured. And some people can't. Sometimes, unfortunately, the disease is stronger than their ability to fight the disease. So I'm sharing this because I thought, while I'm in the middle of this withdrawal, to give you an idea of what it's like. And I know I'm smiling and I seem very coherent here, but I can tell you that it's not always that way. In a few minutes, I'm sure I'll be upstairs and I'll be dragging and my eyes will be closing and I'll feel the burning anxiety and I'll be struggling. I'll have the brain zaps and all the terrible things. And I'm in for this for probably another 5 days. But if you're going through this, or if you know somebody who's going through this, you're not alone. We're all in the same boat in some way, shape, or form, right? So I want to thank you for listening, and I hope that this gives you a little idea of what it's like to be on this side.